We're getting back on track here with Kathryn and Emily, but as you know, we won't stay there for long because this is the Going Off Track podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Going Off Track podcast. I'm Kathryn, and Emily's back.
I am back. Yes, thanks to Paul for stepping in for me late notice. I had a family emergency this weekend. I was away. I caught some of the race, didn't have time to record, so Kathryn was so lovely and helped find someone to step into my place. But I'm back. Everything is good. Everyone's okay. Life is great. And we're going to Saudi Arabia.
We are capping the triple header. It feels like this triple header has gone on for like, I don't know, a month and a half at this point.
Honestly, I was thinking the same exact thing. I'm like, it's 3 races back to back, but it's felt like it's 3 races in almost 2 months. Like, it's been so much, but you know, I'm loving it. It's so great to be back in the 2025 season. Like, I feel like we just went off with a bang, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's love it. Speaking of the calendar, we did get some really interesting calendar news this week before we start talking about Saudi Arabia. We might as well just jump right into it. Honestly, the other benefit from a podcasting standpoint, for those of you who don't know, is like triple headers mean like less news, or we just cover the news, throughout the weekend rather than just like, here's 3 weeks of news that you missed in the weird fall break that we had after summer break. And also let's talk about the race. Like, we don't have nearly as much news, which honestly is kind of okay.
You just went, glad you're back. Let's hit them with the calendar updates.
Hey, you're the one who says the episodes need to be shorter, so here we go.
I know. But no, yes, Kathryn, so excited for this. I love a good calendar change. We're not getting Malaysia, but we possibly are getting rid of Imola, which, yes. Please.
So I understand the historical significance to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, to Imola, all of that. I get it. But like, Stefano Domenicali has finally come out this week and said what basically everyone is thinking of, like, why does Italy have 2 races? Especially, why does Italy have 2 races when one is Monza, which is like perfection on track, and the other is Imola, which does not suit modern Formula One and doesn't suit modern Formula One in ways that like can't be fixed. Whereas you can attempt to fix Monaco, which we'll see later this year, and Suzuka this year was hopefully probably a one-off.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was just gonna say. When I did hear this, and the reasoning being, it doesn't necessarily suit Formula One where it is today, it makes me a little nervous that we're going to lose Monaco. I know that we've said this until we're blue in the face and the cows come home because we've talked about it so much, but Monaco's so iconic you can't get rid of it. But the race sucks. So what do? They're adding in mandatory pit stops. I think that's going to be more entertaining. I say you make it a sprint weekend. I don't know why they won't listen to us. But I think, like you said, there's ways to fix Monaco. There's nothing to fix Imola. But it still makes me super, scared that we might lose Monaco.
I don't know how you can, because
that's the thing. I don't know how you can, but
yeah, it's in this weird gray area of like, is Monaco a good race? No, especially when you have like a first lap red flag and then everybody pits and then all you have is parade like we saw last year. So hopefully these mandatory pit stops will help. I think the next step will be mandatory pit stops in specific windows where they'll say you'll have to pit between laps 1 and 30, and then you'll have to pit a second time between laps, 31 and whatever. So there are options if this year's attempt to make it more interesting doesn't work. And
but also they're committed through what, 2030?
Probably. I also just like don't think anyone wants to put the effort into Imola other than like diehards who have been around the sport forever. Maybe.
Well, and again, let's all take a step back and look at the big picture. How much money does Monaco bring in for the for FIA F1 every single year? A lot of money. How much is Imola bringing in? Probably not that much. So I think that's the reason, like, that is a really big tick in the pro column for Monaco. Yeah. Keeping it is the money that it brings in. But I don't know. I love the glitz and the glam and everything of Monaco, but at the same time, it is a very boring race. But the qualifying session is the most exciting qualifying session of the season.
It is one of the most exciting, and we're going to get a really exciting qualifying. No matter what happens in the race, we are going to have a really exciting qualifying, especially in like the Norris Piastri battle. So that will be very intriguing, especially once we get to like that point of the year, which is what, I don't know, in like a month and a half. Soon. Monaco is coming up soon. But
so, okay, before we move on to the next point, I do want to ask you a question. So with Imola coming off of the schedule and Zandvoort coming off of the schedule, who do you think will replace those two races? I know we have this feeling that we're going to go to like an alternating track, especially because Spa has some gap years. But what track do you think is in the best shape to possibly come onto the schedule to make up for Zandvoort and Imola?
That's a really great question that I don't even think Formula One knows the answer to yet.
Okay, so in a perfect world, like in Kathryn, I know it's going to be Malaysia, but like
Malaysia.
It won't, but it's not. Kathryn.
It's not going to be Malaysia.
Stop trying to make Malaysia happen. But no, of the realistic options, what do you think we're most likely to see? I guess let's phrase it that way.
Honestly, it's either a toss-up between South Korea and Turkey are the two that I'm really thinking are off the top of my head. Maybe South Africa, but they still have.
South Africa was mine.
South Africa is, but the problem with South Africa is South Africa hasn't updated itself yet.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's gonna lead to a lot of lead time. And to shift to the next bit of our calendar question is they just announced that the Madrid track, which is a hybrid street, like partial street, partial permanent facility like Vegas is, they're like on the verge of getting their permits to start building the track facilities in preparation for their September 2026 debut. And that's going to be really interesting because that year is also the last year of Barcelona. So Barcelona and Madrid will be on the calendar at the same time in 26. So the question is do we also keep Barcelona, or do we drop Barcelona in favor of another track, a different track, the Chicago Grand Prix street race ? It's not going to be the Chicago. It's not going to be Chicago. They won't do four in the US. You know what?
That is a typical American thing to do, is just start taking over all of the races on the calendar. Like I see it. I don't think I enjoy it.
Well,
but I see it.
I mean,
also drop Miami, add Chicago, drop Vegas, have COTA, Chicago. I think it's great. Have one circuit, one street race in the US. Neither of them should be sprint weekends. I think we've solved.
Yeah, the problems are, one, Miami exists, and two, Miami exists with a bad track, which is going to be ironic for, this is called foreshadowing, friends. But anyway,
so in 2026, Madrid's going to take over for Zandvoort, because Zandvoort's gone after this year, correct?
I believe so, but
we wouldn't have 25 races in a season. That's just insane.
I mean, Stefano would like to have 52, but yes. So not only is Madrid set to take over for one of those late year dates, but also it is taking over the moniker of the Spanish Grand Prix. You can't have, like, the United States technically has 3 US Grand Prix, but technically the US Grand Prix is COTA, the Miami Grand Prix is Miami, and the Vegas Grand Prix is Vegas. But Madrid will be the Spanish Grand Prix. Barcelona will probably have a new name, kind of like when Baku for a couple of years was just the European Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Which also just occurred to me, hold on, Germany could come back onto the calendar somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like Germany is available as a country. France is available as a country that, F1 is raced in relatively recent years that have tracks that would probably be ready for F1 if they want to pony up the money to get on the schedule. So that also brings in another question mark of like, how much of this infrastructure and investment is going into adding more races in Europe rather than adding more races into like Southeast Asia and the Middle East, because the Middle East is like throwing money left, right, and center to have like a 52 race calendar just in the Middle East.
I want it to be the traveling circus that hits every continent besides Antarctica for obvious reasons. Like,
I mean, they probably figure out how to race there.
Well, honestly, I want to see a race in South Africa. I really do. I mean, I know there's a lot going on right now, so that might be difficult, but I don't know. I think having it touch all continents would be really cool to like do that again, because at one point it was on every continent, I think.
Yes. Oh, you know, the other one that we forgot, India. India wants to get back on the calendar India.
Too. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. So there are a lot of the answer is there are way too many options, and whether it's not just that I want Sepang back, but I'm very curious to see how the calendar is going to evolve over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. So.
And we're probably both wrong about everything. Watch, they actually bring Malaysia back.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Okay, well, that's all we have. Just our, fun nonsense about talking about calendars, which I think is becoming my second favorite thing to talk about besides contracts.
Yeah, there have been rumors that Mercedes is working on a 2-year extension for George Russell, which I know is your favorite thing to talk about is George Russell. But that, I mean, is anyone surprised?
No.
Like, why would they, like, there's no reason to get rid of him. He's surprisingly all upside right now. So they might as well lock him in for another couple of years, especially with, alongside Kimi, and the Mercedes is almost a contender this year.
Yeah, honestly. So I would not be surprised if they double announced it like they did last year. George gets a 2-year extension, and so does Kimi Antonelli. Like, I can see them giving Kimi... Sorry, I have to pause there. I can't get over the fact that his name is Andrea and it's not Kimi. And every single time I see Andrea, I'm like, who the heck is Andrea? I know it's Kimi, but like, it doesn't click. Anyways, I don't see how they wouldn't extend Kimi already. Like, they're not going to wait for summer break. They're not going to wait for a long time. He's scored how many points? Like, as a rookie, he's doing very well. I think he gets a contract extension for 2 more years alongside George Russell. It'll probably come...
Silverstone.
Yeah, Silverstone. I think that's a really good bet.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that in July. But
yeah, it's always the week of the 4th of July, which I think is so funny too, that it's the British Grand Prix on the 4th of July.
Yeah, that is actually hilarious. But yeah, so it'll be interesting, especially as we have seen with contracts over the last couple of years.
All right. Well, let's get into Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So this race last year was like one of my favorites, one of the most exciting.
Shockingly.
Because of one incident. Carlos Sainz lost his appendix. He had to step away. Ollie Bearman stepped up, and he ended up scoring points. So he had one race and was ahead of, half of the field after one race.
And not only that, but this was also the second race of the year last year, just with the way that the schedule had been.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so he scored points super early compared to a lot of people. He sat in P12 in the driver's standings for like 6 months. It was hilarious. And I remember after qualifying, we're like, okay, I think he qualified P11, and it's like, okay, P11 is good. It's, he's getting the benefit of a Ferrari, and then he ends up finishing in P7. We're like, oh my God, this kid's legit.
Yeah. It was like, wow, is he good, or is it just the Ferrari car? And then he drove a Haas, and he still
also scored in a Haas.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and he's continued to score in a
Haas. Yeah.
So that was such a wild weekend of like, oh my God, he's getting his appendix out. Oh my God, who's replacing him? It was the whole like. As has been established, Saudi Arabia is not my favorite race, not my favorite track. No. Maybe Al Qadiyah will be better. And of course, Al Qadiyah, the new track that has been proposed that looks like a Mario Kart track.
It looks like Rainbow Road. It does. It's Rainbow Road. Yeah.
I think we had a whole discussion about this last year that I'll link above, just all about how it's like the new Rainbow. It's like Rainbow Road in real life, but they're bringing back discussions about it. And I'm like, It looks really cool. Like they have like a 20-meter like first turn. Like it's like the elevations are ridiculous. 20 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 meters would be too tall. I'm bad at
like,
math.
That's really high.
But like it's still like the elevations on this track are absurd, and I just like from a safety standpoint don't understand how that works at all. So
that's why it's proposed and not confirmed, Kathryn.
I don't believe it. Like they've been talking about having a permanent track in Saudi Arabia that isn't the Corniche circuit that we have, that is like it's technically a street race. I just like I don't believe it. Like I'll believe it when I see it. Like I'll believe China is actually happening when we actually have lights out in China. Like I don't believe that they're actually going to make this absurd, ridiculous Rainbow Road like track.
So as much as I like my gut is saying like, yes, Kathryn is right, I have the same opinion, I feel like they'll just find a way to do it because of the excitement. Yes. So I'm honestly holding space that there will be an insane track. I think it'll be fun to see, fun for the driver, probably not fun for them, but it'll be more fun for us. But it definitely looks like Rainbow Road.
It does. And like it's not like they're like aching for money in Saudi Arabia. Like they've got plenty of money to throw into this, and like there have even been discussions this week about like a Saudi backed F1 team on the grid.
I saw that,
which we'll see after, you know, in the post Cadillac world what adding another team is going to look like, because everybody's going to, you know, they've thrown enough fits about 11 teams, so we'll see about 12. But I think that if it ever happens, it will be one of the most absurd tracks on the calendar.
Yeah, so super off track here. Did you know that like most of the McLaren team is owned by the Qatari?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
I think I believe it's within the last year, the Qatari Wealth Monetary Fund, whatever it is that runs that country, has taken, I think they have like a 25% stake in the team.
Oh, I thought it was more, but that sounds right. But still, that's a huge portion for like one party to own. Because like we've talked a lot about Alpine last year, how I think Rory McIlroy, the
conglomerate of celebrities.
There's like a ton of celebrities that all came together to like buy a piece of the team, and the conglomerate only bought like 7%. Like it's not a large portion. I think I thought it was like
23. I don't know.
I think it's a pretty small percentage, but anyway, like that's like a huge group that all went. I mean, obviously the Qatari like National Wealth Fund or whatever, but essentially it's owned by like one group, which is a large amount.
Yeah.
Anyways, not a controlling interest, but still a large portion they would have.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, you know, the Middle Eastern money is the real big, you know, driving force of a lot of the, you know, money and direction of F1. That's why we have so many Middle Eastern races right now. Yep. So it's like that's the whole big hot thing. It's like when what's his face went to go play soccer in Saudi Arabia for like an absurd amount of
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, him too. And
Messi, I think he turned it down to go to Miami.
And I think Ronaldo left.
I think he did. Well, it was only a 2-year contract.
Yeah, and that he did not want to extend.
But Messi does like a ton of like family friendly Saudi Arabia commercials of like bring your family to Saudi Arabia and travel in Saudi Arabia.
I can't.
Well, but yeah, I used to see those commercials in Argentina all the time when I was there.
So, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Well, anyways, yes. So we kind of briefly talked about it. This is our first street circuit this year. So we get to see some street racing, which will be exciting. King of the Streets is no longer in a seat, so can't claim that. Maybe someone else can claim the title. Honestly, I think Checo lost the title in 2023? I don't think
probably
he had it in 2024. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who kind of excels, if you will, on our first street track.
Yeah, I think that even though Saudi Arabia is not my favorite race, I think having it positioned a few races in makes it more intriguing and makes it, I want to say, more relevant than having it be the second race of the year, or, you know, early on when it was like the second to last race of the year, where there was a lot of intrigue, especially in 2021 when it was the penultimate race before Abu Dhabi 2021, which if you don't know, just watch that race. We should do an F101 on what happened in Abu Dhabi.
I think
We
I'll
should.
just mad and yell at the computer the entire time. I don't know if I can emotionally put myself into that state. Maybe in a few more years we can get there.
We might need a little bit of more time to separate ourselves from that entire race, which can be really summed up by this coffee cup that I have, which I love.
So not right.
But I think it's especially in light of this McLaren battle that we have, the Red Bull coming off of a very difficult Bahrain race, Mercedes being good, Ferrari being a question mark. Like there's a lot of things that are going to be really interesting about this weekend. And then also ultimately this is going to be the first like big major F1 street race for a lot of these rookie drivers who have not raced on this track before, or maybe have raced on this track in the lower series, but not to the same extent in Formula One.
Yeah. No, it should be a good race. I'm very hopeful. Also, it's at noon. Are you kidding me? Oh, I could just sleep it. Actually, that's a lie. I'll get up semi-early. I'll go to Pilates. I'll get a coffee. I'll sit and watch the entire pre-race show. Get to see the grid walk. It won't be a set alarm, open eyes, lights out, which I'm very excited about. So
yeah, for me it will be probably wake up to an alarm, roll out of bed as soon as I have to, throw on some clothes, drive over to Guesty Bestie's house in time for the grid walk and the race, and we'll probably like build some Lego F1 cars and watch the actual F1 cars on track.
I should have an F1 brunch with my friends.
Ooh.
I should tell them I'm making brunch and then kidnap them and force them to watch F1. That's what I meant to say. No, I'm kidding.
If I had more than 2.5 friends, most of which who live in California, or you who lives in Texas, then that would also probably be a thing.
Yeah, I forgot I lived in Texas for a second. I was like, no, yes, I do.
Yes,
I am in Texas. Good. Okay, well, let's quit with the dilly-dallying and let's get into our predictions. I'm so disappointed in myself, but you know what? I caved. It's fine. It is what it is. I'm sure you know, Kathryn, exactly what I'm talking about. So with that being said, let's get into our predictions. Kathryn, for your pole sitter, Saudi Arabia 2025, who do you have?
I mean, I don't think it should be a surprise that I'm going again with Oscar.
Same.
Yeah.
Solid week for us last week, getting Oscar for pole.
Oscar gave us points, and I think that like Oscar is also proving that he is probably the more capable McLaren driver.
He's a worthy adversary.
A very worthy adversary, and definitely I think primary McLaren contender for the drivers' championship.
Well, because he's down by like what, 1 point now?
3 points.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I wrote it and talked about it with Paul in the reaction episode last week.
Kathryn, I feel like you say that expecting me to know that. I don't remember what I had for lunch today.
3 points.
Oh yeah, look at that. You're right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so there's down. Yeah, for sure.
There's an opportunity for Oscar to overtake Lando.
I was gonna say, brain blast. I predict Oscar will be the world championship leader at the end of the weekend.
I think he would have to. Yeah, if he wins and Lando finishes anywhere, he will jump up again.
5-point gap. Yeah, 5 is greater than 3. Oh, look at this.
Math is hard. Yes.
Okay, so with that being said, who do you have for your podium? Have you given Oscar the opportunity to overtake Lando?
I have given Oscar the opportunity to overtake Lando. I just need to pull up my predictions. I pick, and I think you're not going to love this, but I picked an Oscar Piastri win, a George Russell P2, and a Charles Leclerc P3. I'm going back with Charles.
Zam. And okay, in this scenario,
and Lando would be P4.
Okay, I was gonna say, where are you putting Lando?
Lando P4, Max P5.
We've made it until now without talking about Max, I think, which is insane.
Well, what we did talk about, Max, we talked about before we started recording, which is Max is not leaving Red Bull to go to another team. Max will just retire. End of story.
Okay. Well, but normally this is like the Max show. Okay. So for podium, I hate myself and I will never forgive myself for picking this, but I have Oscar P1.
Okay.
Lando P2.
Mm-hmm.
George Russell.
And George.
P3.
So you have my podium from last week.
Yes. And you know what? I'm feeling pretty comfy about this.
Or no. You do not have my podium from last week. I picked Charles P3 last week too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're really on the Charles train.
Well, I mean, he has been he's been performing, so he was P4 last week. We just didn't notice it. We just didn't notice it because, also really quick, the Bahrain Grand Prix camera production
oh my God.
I don't know how much
awful.
you saw, but it was terrible. Like, we cannot, like, of all of the technical mishaps and issues that we had, and like some of these things are unavoidable, like George's third-party transponder going out, like those, and DRS being on the fritz for pretty much everybody. But the camera direction, we can talk about this like a few times every year, but camera direction needs to improve, where I don't care about George trundling in for a pit stop when Max and Pierre are fighting. Like, there's and I mean,
it's horrible. It
was so
the entire race, but yeah, for what I did see,
it was one of the worst we've had in a while. Like, usually we point to Monaco as one of the worst.
Don't forget, Monaco used to run their own direction,
right? Which Monaco does not anymore because they finally unclenched and gave the reins to Sky. But Sky just did a really bad job in Bahrain. I don't know if it was like somebody was on a day off or something, and who's usually in charge of these things, but whoever was doing the production really needs to be better or needs to be replaced for this weekend.
No, I agree. I completely agree. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty okay with this because I feel like of those three, they can land on the podium. And now that we're, so generous to ourselves and giving ourselves at least some points, if we get all three people on the podium in the wrong order, I'm feeling good with that. I'm going for the points. I'm putting my ego aside and I'm going for the points.
Couldn't we also talk really quick before we do our P10s that I did have a grand slam last year at this race where I picked pole, podium, and P10 correctly? And it was the only time that I picked like really well, and then it just completely went downhill from there.
Yawn.
I would just like to make a point of reminding everybody that last year in Saudi Arabia, snaps for Kathryn. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out in one relevant pod episode.
I just wanted to point out that I'm terrible at this game. So
hey, we both have been bad. It's been 4 races plus 1 sprint weekend, and we have a combined 3 points.
I know. I challenge all of you to try and do this. Actually, do it along with us. See how you do compared to Kathryn or I. You're not far behind because we only have 1 point.
Bishop, dinner time. Yes, DM us on Instagram at going.off.track with your picks for the weekend as well.
Yes. So with that, let's jump into our last prediction, P10. We pick P10 because it is the last place on the grid where you get a point. You get 1 point for P10. We give ourselves 3 because it is very difficult. So for your P10 of Saudi Arabia, who do you got?
I am going with one of the drivers who has yet to score a point this season, which there are 4 left. 4 rookies, technically, or 3 rookies, technically, and then Fernando Alonso, who has the spirit of a rookie. I am going with Fernando in P10 this week.
You're like, so rookies, it won't be you.
So it won't be the actual rookies. It will be Grandpa.
Love it. I think that's a good bet. When I saw that graphic and that stat, I was so surprised. I was like, Fernando hasn't scored a point yet? And Stroll has? Like, what is wrong? Super weird. So I'm going with, a really, we are fans of him on the podcast. I'm going Isaac Hadjar. Again.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a huge supporter of his now. So
I mean, we are officially Team Hadjar, and definitely like V-Carb Racing Bulls needs to bring, like, they need to come out and make some like better Isaac Hadjar merch. Like, very quickly. We will give you money for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Isaac's an interesting one because I feel like I know we've said this before, but it just surprises me every week that he was like a random guy thrown into a seat. And I know he's not random, but like to us he is. And I'm just like, you know what? Every week goes by and I like him more. I see more of him. Well, not anymore. Also, I think that's what I'm most upset about Yuki moving to Red Bull is we don't get the Kardashian content anymore from Hajar and Yuki, which was killing me. But I think this guy is really marketable. I think he's great. He's funny. He has, a good attitude towards doing all of the content. So I don't know. I like him. I want him to stay around. So
yeah, I think he's great. I think that Red Bull's happy with him. I think that he is exceeding everyone's expectations.
Oh,
obviously
100%.
But the thing is, it's also a little bit expected because this was the F2 runner-up. This was the vice champion. So
F2 doesn't translate to F1.
F2 doesn't translate to F1, but at the same time, sometimes you do get F2 graduates who make an immediate impact. See Isaac and Ollie and Kimmy. And this class of F2 graduates is really the best class we've seen since the George, Lando, Alex class of 2019.
Yeah. No, of course. I think we refer to them all the time when we talk about the rookies this season. But
yeah.
Okay, so going into our biggest surprise, I'm going to go first because I think it's a good segue talking about rookies. So my biggest surprise is we're going to have 3 rookies score points again this week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that pick.
I know, I do too. I was debating if it was going to be 4, but I think it's going to be 3. And I think it's going to be Kimmy, Hajar, and Ollie.
Yeah, I can see that. I think those are the most likely.
Yeah, Jack didn't look horrible in the last race.
No.
He was kind of there. But yeah, I think it's going to be those 3. But still, if it's just 3 rookies, I'm still giving myself credit because I think that's good enough saying that 3.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And Paul and I talked in the Bahrain reaction about how Jack was in the no man's land between who impressed and who disappointed, because obviously he had the penalty, but also I think that he drove really well. And they've also come out and said, and you and I talked about this in the DMs this week, of Ollie Oaks, team principal, said that they're going to keep Jack until at least the summer break. And then what I said to you is, okay, that's what Ollie said, but what does Flavio Briatore have to say about it? But I also do feel like Alpine is pivoting a little bit away from Team Colapinto. So I think that maybe they recognize that what they're doing and what they're putting Jack through has been completely inappropriate and unconscionable.
I'd love to think that, but I never know.
I think too highly of
you're giving Alpine too much credit.
Yes,
just wait until Spa, Kathryn. Just wait until Spa.
Well, yes, we are. My biggest surprise for Spa is that Oliver Oaks makes it through the weekend.
Honestly, that's a good one. Just pre.
It's not even August, but mark it down for those of you keeping track. That is my big surprise of the weekend. And if I forget that that's my biggest surprise, it's still my biggust surprise.
Okay, so who's gonna do a dumb this weekend?
Wait, I didn't do my big.
Oh,
my
I'm so sorry. We talked so much. I've forgotten already. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. But no, I mean, it's not nearly as fun. My big surprise is that Red Bull has a bounce back weekend after Bahrain, because I feel like they have 2 options. One, they have another Bahrain weekend where they struggle, or we have they're back on track and they're not contending with the McLarens yet, but they're fine. And I do think that we're going to have that. Everyone is catastrophizing about oh my God, the Red Bull's terrible. But I do think that Bahrain just wasn't the track for Red Bull. And so I'm going with Red Bull will have a bounce back weekend in both cars.
Okay.
As if they didn't double score last week, but that's entirely, irrelevant.
It's all about the
optics.
Yes. Okay. So now that we know your biggest surprise, what is your dumb of the weekend, Kathryn?
So I kind of feel really bad about this, but my dumb of the weekend is that Ollie Bearman is going to struggle. I just feel like after the excitement of his performance last year in Saudi Arabia, I just don't think he's going to be able to match that this year. So my dumb is Ollie. I don't know if that means he crashes. I don't know if that means he finishes out of the points, but I just don't like, we're not going to get the same type of excitement that we got out of Ollie last year.
No, that's fair. Unfortunate, but fair.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an oops, but now I'm feeling like this is just really lowbrow. Oops.
Is it just steak?
No, it's just that like Aston Martin is not going to do well, which like they haven't been, and there's no reason that they're not. I think they're just throwing away this season waiting for the new car.
Yeah, really.
Honestly. Well, and it came out like he's not touching 2025. He's only starting with 2026. Which I think is fair. You don't want to like start trying to fix something that isn't yours, and that's a disaster.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know if I have a dumb. I think my dumb is that it's just a bad racing weekend. Like, we're so excited for our first street race and like nothing happens and it's super boring. So then it would just be everybody. But I don't know.
Okay.
You know, I'm feeling really generous. I don't think I'm going to put anyone down this week.
All right. I mean,
just wait. It's like hold my
It's like hold my beer. No, it's like I think that like I didn't think Bahrain was a great race. Like I like a lot of people are like, oh my god, that race was so exciting. It's like, was it exciting or was it just better than Suzuka?
Yeah, we have a pretty low bar for entertainment this season, just all things considering. Like Australia was a disaster. There was stops and not continuous. So many issues, and Suzuka was a parade. I think we have a very a low bar for entertainment and excitement this season so far. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's an exciting race, but who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, I also hope that this is going to be a good race weekend. But what is going to make this a very interesting weekend anyway is the second round of the F1 Academy is happening this weekend in Saudi.
Sure is. So, okay, this is round 2.
Yes.
Which is super exciting. We haven't seen F1 in a while. They were in China? No.
Yes.
Yes.
China.
They were in China. Oh, look at me. I'm so
good job.
Okay, so give us an update. Where are we in the drivers? Constructors, I know it doesn't matter, but you can still give us an update anyways.
Yeah.
And the points aren't real. And then who is our wild card driver? So as a refresher to all of you who are newer to F1 Academy, each race that they have a local or supposedly local wild card who doesn't have a permanent seat. It's kind of like their one time to shine. We saw several drivers last year serve as wild cards who are now have a permanent seat, which is really cool to see them make that jump. So yeah, tell us all the fun in and outs of F1.
So I think this is going to be a really interesting weekend. Primarily for the fact that a lot of these drivers have driven in Saudi Arabia before because we had Saudi Arabia on the calendar last year. But even though we do have a ton of new drivers in F1 Academy and a ton of drivers who are new to single-seater racing, this is still going to be familiar territory for them because they tested in Saudi Arabia last week. So they got, the 3 full testing period. They did a ton of laps and a lot of mileage. And so this will be really interesting to kind of have everybody on like a more even par compared to China, where some drivers hadn't driven in China. Some were like, that was their single-seater debut. So I think that this could be really interesting. The one thing that was of note in the Saudi Arabia test was our favorite, the Alpine driver, Nita Gademan. She actually crashed badly enough that she missed out on the last day of testing and had to go to I think she spent the night in the hospital. Fortunately, she was fine and it was like precautionary, but that was like she's, as we've seen from her this year, like she's going very aggressive and very much like, I want to win everything, which has not gone well for her yet this year. She was running in the points twice, and then once had the first race there was a technical failure in her car. The second she crashed out. So she hasn't had the start to the season that she's expected, and right now the leaders in the standings, it's very early, but it's Dorian Pon from Mercedes, Maya Vuk from Ferrari, Chloe Chambers from Red Bull. So it's basically the three we expected to see and will expect to continue seeing be successful. And the question is, is Gateman, is anyone else on the grid going to be competitive? Who is going to challenge these three? Who, Pon and Vuk have some like the most experience, and as does Chambers. Like those are the three that we know those names. So those are the ones that it's like, are they going to continue going on a tear and kind of break off from everyone else? Because right now the standings are all pretty close because it's early on and they changed the point system. Or is it going to be another year where a driver takes off, which I don't think it's going to be another year like Abby Pulling, where Abby won almost everything.
Yeah. Okay, so those are people that we know, but what about the wild card? These are my favorite. I love that like you get an opportunity just to drive, like you get on.
Yeah, and the wild card is really exciting. You said it's supposed to be a driver that's local, and last year there was a mix of like predominantly it was local drivers, and then it was a couple like non-local, like Singapore did not have a local driver. But this year in Saudi Arabia, again, we had last year in Saudi Arabia we had our first ever wildcard driver, Rima Jafali. This year we have Farah Al Yosef. She is pretty new in single seater. She's been racing in the Middle Eastern F4 Championship, but she's also the 2022 Women's Karting Champion, and internationally finished 26th in the World Finals. So she had a really good karting career. She's just getting started in her single seater career, which is why bringing her in as the wild card is like this is the perfect timing to do. So I'm really excited to see how she's going to perform. Obviously, Shi Wei from China had a really difficult weekend, and fortunately Al Yosef got to test in Saudi Arabia with the rest of the F1 Academy girls last week, so she will also have experience on this track as well that I think that Shi Wei kind of wasn't able to get, even though I believe she had driven the China track prior to the Chinese Grand Prix. But it's going to be a really interesting weekend. I think that we're going to see a lot more different names popping up, and especially like at the top of the field. So this could be very interesting early on moments for the championship fight.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Also, you can watch it this year, which is really exciting. This will be their last race for a while, a bit.
No, they're in Miami too.
No, that's right. They're in Miami. So yeah, so we'll get to see them again a few weeks after this, but love when all the support races come.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 7 weekends, so the fact that we're getting like the first 3 weekends out of the way in the first portion, like we're gonna go a while without seeing them, and it's gonna be like, where's the academy? Come on. But they will have their races and their qualifying and their practices are all prior to F1 stuff, so probably a little bit earlier in the morning than last week.
You can pull in Emily and just record it and then watch it later.
You don't even need to record it. Just pull it up on the YouTube channel and go from there. And also the YouTube channel will tell you once they have those live streams scheduled, it will tell you exactly when it is local to you. So you don't have to do the math and try to figure out what time it is in Saudi Arabia based on what time it is where you live, because I try to do that and it makes my brain hurt.
Math is hard.
Math is really hard. Math is harder.
Okay, so with that, we are done with our predictions episode, but we can't leave without getting a fun fact from you. So Kathryn, what is your F1 fun fact for us today?
So my fun fact, little quick thing, topical to what happened at the end of Bahrain when unfortunately Nico Hülkenberg got disqualified. And I was doing a little bit of math and realized that we've had 4 disqualifications post-race in season. And that's a lot for the first 4 race weekends. So I went to look to see the last time we've had that many disqualifications in a season, because like I don't want this to be a thing, but the skid plate disqualification might become a thing this year. So the last time we've had 4 disqualifications in one season was 2006. So it's been a while. And then in 2004, there were 5 disqualifications, 4 of which were in their own race. And one guy got disqualified, Juan Pablo Montoya, in back-to-back races in Canada and the US. And it also does not count the 14 did not starts at the US Grand Prix in 2005, which if you want to know what happened at the 2005 US Grand Prix, that is up in the little back box on YouTube, or it's down in the show notes. But that did not count as disqualifications. They were all did not starts. But I'm very curious to see if is F1 going to beat some like in-season disqualification records with the skid plate issue. The answer is I hope not, but I'm also wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting.
So that's a fact. I don't know if it's fun or not, but it is a fact.
It was a really stressful weekend last weekend. Like being demoted. I was pissed for Albon.
Also that, yeah.
Yeah, but anyways. All right. Well, that is the end of our Saudi Arabia predictions episode. Coming up next for the pod, we will have our recap episode, which will come out on Monday, the day after the race. But that is it for us today. Thanks for going off track with us, guys.